I think sort of my favorite thing of seeing a group like this is you realize we're not a monolith and that Indigenous design does not look one way. I think it's a narrative that's been in fashion for a long time is that Native American design is just one thing. And as we can clearly see, it's many different things, many different histories, many different styles. We all have our own stories. And I think that's the most exciting thing about Indigenous fashion today is you can't really predict where it's going. Hello. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. This is really exciting for me personally because a big part of my job at Vogue is to cover Indigenous designers. That sort of came out of a selfish place because I just love Indigenous design. So I kind of just made it my job, whether they liked it or not. And so, a big part of my job is finding designers who are sort of maintaining their cultural traditions and their designs and keeping their unique craftwork alive, but also finding ways to push it forward and to do it in unexpected ways, very modern ways. I really love that tension. And the group of designers that we're going to have here today are perfect examples of that. They're all designers that I've covered at some point. They're all designers that have been in this institution. They're very much top of the top. So it's a very exciting group that we have here today. I'm not going to talk the whole time. I think it's really great for you guys just to meet them. So my job will be introducing them all, and then you'll get to hear a little bit more about what inspires them, what drives their craft, where they're from, all the good stuff. So let's see if I can work this. There we go. So first up, we have a prolific designer named Dorothy Grant. She is an icon, so I'm just going to put that out there. She is trailblazing. She is prolific Haida designer who has been creating one-of-a-kind designs since she first began her career in the 1980s. She is born into the Raven Claw in Heidelberg, Alaska, and she first learned how to sew and weave from her maternal grandmother when she was just 13 and began creating regalia for Haida dance groups in her community. Today, her work fuses the modern with the traditional and unexpected and is just flat out gorgeous. And her new book, Dorothy Grant, An Endless Thread, is out now and explores her impressive career in fashion. And after this, she will be doing a book signing, which you can all go to as well. So let's give it up for Dorothy.
Thank you very much. I want to first say thank you to the programming department here at NMAI for bringing us all in for this very prestigious event. I have had a 30-year relationship with this institution, which I did a runway fashion show at New York NMAI, and that was aired live by the New York Times, and it was one of the best shows that I've ever been part of. And after that, NMAI acquired the Haida wedding dress for their collection, and I'm very proud and pleased with that. My career does span 40 years as an artist and fashion designer. And my main part of my whole philosophy and theme has been about Haida art and showcasing that through fashion. When I was 13 years old, I learned how to sew when we took home economics in high school, and I excelled at it at the time. And little did I know that I would be the one in my nation to bring Haida art forward on the world stage. I'm very proud of that. I also kept it as my theme to showcase Haida art on clothing as opposed to totem poles and jewelry and prints. So this really created a new medium within our art form. And then many people afterwards took on that as a medium. So fashion has become a medium of expression for all of us designers, Indigenous designers, to showcase our culture. To educate the world that we are talented, we are thriving, and we can make successful businesses from this new medium. I guess I can't say it's new because I've been at it for 40 years. I was born in March 14th, 1955, so you can do the math. Um, Thank you. This is one of my very first pieces that I did in design school. It's called the Eagle Bolero and Full Circle Skirt. And it's part of my book. I'm showing you photographs that are in the book. It was just published from Figure One publisher in Vancouver, BC in October 2024. So it's very new. I've done many book launches since, but I'm very pleased to have told my story through the book. Where I'm showing 40 pieces that span my career. And there's an exhibition in Haida called Dorothy Grant, Raven Comes Full Circle. I titled it Raven Comes Full Circle because there's so many full circle moments that I've had over the 40 years, and it keeps happening and coming around in these experiences that teach me something about everybody, about our culture, and about just human philosophy, about feeling good about ourselves through clothing. This is a matriarch from Haida, who I featured in the book as well. Other matriarchs from the villages of Masset and Skidegate and myself. I did 8 photo shoots, 2 in Vancouver and 6 in Haida for the book, because I had to photograph this collection and in a very contemporary way, with native models from various communities. And I think for me, what it did for our people was that feeling of what I call yagudang. And it's a Haida word that is basically the philosophy behind my clothing. Yagudang means to have respect for yourself and for those that surround you. That is Yagudang. And so I hope I am embodying that through my clothing and for the wearer. So the wearer buys it because they feel that they have come to this place in their life where they can walk into a door in my pieces and feel like they own the space. They own their pride. They're feeling good about themselves. And I think that that's what I convey in my clothing. This is one of my ceremonial robes, the last one I did in 2007. It is now on display at the Met in New York City, which I'm very pleased about that. This is the shark robe. It's in the American wing, the Diker collection at the Met. This is 2 sisters walking the beach, and this is in the book. That is Haida, and my scarf dresses. This is me at Rose Spit in the Raven Creation tunic and one of my fur felt hats that I actually teach this process in Native communities. It was important for me to photograph my pieces at Rose Spit because that's where Raven created mankind in our Haida stories. So it was monumental for me to be able to do all of this photography in Haida and publish the book through photographs and tell my story. My story has been told through many universities and various levels of education, and I felt it important that people hear the words, my story, my words, and I think it's important as Indigenous people, it's time we tell our own stories and not through the voices of other people and anthropologists, even though that's a good place, but this is my story. These are some of my models in Vancouver. And again, that feeling of yagudang, of respect of themselves and the feeling good. We had a great time doing the book. I'm really pleased, so I hope to see you up in the bookstore. I mean, the gift store. Is this on? Yes. This is Tiffany. She's from the Haida Nation, and she's wearing my Raven great cape with a one-shoulder dress underneath. The sea otter was soft gold as the most important material of trade during the 1800s. And I was tasked with the job to create a garment from the 1800s. So in the beginning of my career in 1988, I designed and made the same cape, but I put it on like a coat. The sea captains, when they came off the ships, were wearing these great voluminous great coats. They were called Riddington coats. And I wanted to see Haida art on these capes. And so that's what I did as my design project. I only made 3 of them. And since then, those 3 pieces are in various museums. I reinvented the design to this is what you see now as a very contemporary garment with the one shoulder dress and the slit, making it very, very modern in 2025, but also important to use the sea otter. The sea otter is a precious material that we use in our regalia, but I use it as trim for this cape. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, that was Dorothy Grant. Very exciting. Next up, we have someone I'm very excited about as well. Her name is Lauren Goodday. Lauren is a multi-award winning Arikara, Hidatsa, Blackfeet, and Plains Cree artist and fashion designer. To me, Lauren is a true jack of all trades. Her ledger art, for one, has been exhibited in numerous solo and group exhibitions in museums across the country. Her ready-to-wear is also continues to be sought after and sells out a lot. Her collections at the Santa Fe Indian Market Fashion Show every year are a huge draw and have featured some pretty star-studded casts, including supermodels like Quanah Chasing Horse and actors like Amber Midthunder, Defaro Wunatai. They've all walked her shows, so I'm very excited to introduce Lauren Goodday.
Noa, dat diets de kunawere. We do not he, we not don negayed, sing dinsa guttage. Hello, everyone. I am Arikara Hidatsa on my mother's side from the Fort Berthold Reservation, and I'm Blackfeet and Plains Cree on my father's side, and a registered treaty Indian with the Sweetgrass Cree First Nation. Today, I'm going to tell you about my journey into art and into fashion. It started when I was a little girl. I grew up in a family that was very industrious. I grew up with my grandmother beating moccasins on the table, her and her sisters creating star quilts and hand stitching them, to my mother creating our regalia that we needed for our powwows, and also my grandfather making the war bonnets for our doings back home. So it was something that came very natural to me, creating art. I learned from seeing. So in essence, you can say that I've been a fashion designer since childhood. I focus on the arts of my people. Behind me, you'll see some sketches of the ledger art that I've created. When I first started, I was a bead worker. My mother taught me to bead around age 5 or 6. And from there, I went into ledger art, traditional regalia making, and now my clothing and my ready-to-wear that I create today. I wanted to share a little bit of the process and my inspiration behind my work. Many times, the designs and the colors that I use are shown to me in flashes, in dreams, and I've been blessed to be able to have this gifted ability. So everything that I do and everything that I create has meanings. This design here, I was shown in a flash, is the best way that I can explain it. And it was something that I really needed to get down on paper. And so I sketched it out first, roughly. And then, I kind of got some inspiration from the colors of my homelands. So for me, the people of the Missouri River, of the MHA Nation, the river is such a big inspiration. It's such a foundation within our culture. And so I wanted to show the importance of the blue waters and also the beautiful sky that we have in North Dakota and the rolling plains. So that's why I incorporated the blue design work. You can see the sketch when I added in the color, and then also over to the finalized design that would then be turned into the ready-to-wear clothing that I create. These are photos of some of my beautiful models, relatives, and friends that I use within my design work. So this was from this latest fall collection. You can see the design from the previous slides that I've turned into knitwear and also a bodycon dress. Going back to my roots of starting with traditional regalia and a lot of handmade items, I worked on this wonderful dress for one of my good friends, Amber Midthunder. She was the star of prey, but this was during the Res Ball premiere. So Amber is of the Dakota tribe of Fort Peck, which I also have lineage to farther back in my family tree. And what I wanted to do was something really special for her, to really focus on, where she comes from and her people. And one of the design works that they had was the ribbon apron. And I've seen that in a lot of old photos. So I also wanted to create and play up that she's this proud Dakota woman wherever she goes and whatever she does. And I wanted to use designs or material items and goods that we would use on our traditional dresses, including the Natillium shells, the brass sequins, and the buckskin, also incorporating the ribbons. I've been so grateful for where art has taken me in my life. I feel like I've gotten many amazing opportunities and met amazing people throughout my journey. This photo here, I was invited to Hawaii for a cross-cultural celebration and the Mamo Wearable Art Show. I've also shown in Santa Fe. And when you look at what the people that I use or the models that I use for my campaigns, they're a diverse group. I really want people to find beauty in who they are and feel represented within my work. I always use my children within my campaigns or also in the runway shows. My children are one of my biggest inspirations. So the reason why I create art and the reason why I continue my art is for my babies, for my children. I want them to feel pride in who they are and be able to see the beauty in our culture. So you'll see me and my two oldest right there. My little girl, my 3-year-old, has gotten into modeling as well, and they love it. My little girls are so inspired by what they see, and I'm hoping that they go down a path similar to me, where they learn by seeing. These are just a couple highlights within my career. Shout out to Christian and Vogue as well. But one of the highlights I feel with my work was Lily, the whole reason why we're here at this programming. I was very surprised when her stylist asked for this dress for this spread, this in L. And what I thought was so amazing about it was that she found herself, she's seen herself, because I'm also from the Blackfeet tribe, and we use the ribbons also with the MHA people, but also the Blackfeet tribe. And so I love that she's seen herself in my dress and that she was able to incorporate it into this L spread. So my artwork has taken me many places, and it's also led to a lot of amazing collaborations. So I've done work with Lenovo, Sephora. I've worked with Sackcloth and Ashes. I've met many amazing people. Up here, you'll see my good friend, CC Meadows. She's an Indigenous-owned beauty brand. And together we created a collection that's actually available in the gift shop. So one of my lifelong dreams was to be in the Smithsonian as a young girl. I grew up I would do little sketches creating what I was going to create for my next powwow outfit. And I remember when I took my art from sketches into the ledger art that you can find in many of my ready-wear collections today. and also into the collections, the exhibition of the ledger art that you see upstairs. So I fulfilled one of my lifelong dreams, being here in the Smithsonian, and I'm so grateful to be back here today. With that, you can see that these pieces here incorporate my culture, my family, and my history. This is located in the upper levels. This is a warrior's honoring dress. So I create ready-to-wear clothing, but I also create the one-of-a-kind pieces as well. This is just a photo of the last one of the major campaigns that I had. I love to, for me, when I create the campaigns, I see that as art as well. The clothing is art, the campaigns are art. So I incorporate things from our culture. You can see the teepee, the buffalo skulls, the buffalo robes. And I love to incorporate the people that mean the most to me, my friends and my relatives. Okay. Here is the beautiful Chanel Gomez. She is Seneca. One of my best friends turned wonderful model. Again, here you'll see the design work I've incorporated into this knitwear. So one of the questions that I get asked most is it appropriate for me as a non-native person to wear native designs? And what I always say is that if you support an Indigenous artist and buy direct for them, that is cultural appreciation. And so I feel that purchasing from Native artists and designers is a great way to show your support and to show that you think that our culture is beautiful. And to be able to have cross-cultural understanding makes for better relations for all of us. Way to go, Shade. Thank you.
Amazing. The amazing Lauren Goodday. Next up, we have a designer named Jontay Kahm. Oh, someone's already clapping. Okay. Jontay is a Plains Cree designer from Mosquito First Nation in Saskatchewan, Canada. Jontay has ongoing inspiration, such as Alexander McQueen and Lady Gaga. Kahm infuses his avant-garde creations with a sense of sculpture and drama, which you will see very soon. He's currently finishing his design studies at Parsons, but even so, his work has already been exhibited at events such as the Santa Fe Indian Market Fashion Show, the Getty Museum, and he's even been worn by Lily Gladstone on the red carpet this past year. So let's give it up for Jontay.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming. My name is Jontay Kahm. I'm from Saskatchewan, Canada. I am Plains Cree, and I grew up on the Mosquito First Nations land. And so, growing up, ever since 2009, Lady Gaga released Bad Romance, and ever since then, I was so excited about entering the world of fashion. And so ever since that video came out and the people that she's worked with, I wanted to be a part of that world and start designing my own clothes. But it took a long time. That was, I don't know, like 15 years ago. And I think my career has really started in a very rapid pace in these recent years. And so in my design work, I love to use colors and textures. Colors comes from my late father, Jeff Kahm. He was a straight edge painter in Santa Fe and an abstract artist. So his love of color has brought down to me. So I love color, and the texture that I used in my clothes comes from my grandfather, because growing up, I would make two-dimensional art that he couldn't see because he was blind. So making textural art for him to feel really had me a sense of like, okay, he loves what he's feeling, so I think I'm gonna go with it. And so this is actually my BFA collection that I did in 2023, so it's very, very recent. Um, this collection is called Regalian Bodies. It's about life, death, and the afterlife. From the passing of my father and my grandfather. This was me coping with their passings because they've loved on me and they instilled that education has been so important. So that's why I'm trying to get my degrees life has been so much more easier of going to school and learning the trade of fashion. And this collection is main focus of feathers and ribbons and the idea of the silhouette of powwow regalia from the bustles in the front and ribbon regalia as well. So this is my very first collection that I presented during Indian Market of 2023. And during that same year, I was scouted out by Parsons to enter into their MFA program. And that was almost like 2 years ago almost. So I have 6 more weeks of my master's program at Parsons, and then I graduate. It's all going by so fast. So this collection that I presented during Santa Fe Indian Market this past August was called Ethereal Realms. So I'm taking this idea of Native American breastplates that are usually worn during war and bringing it into a whole new realm, a very ethereal realm. So I'm using the silhouette of the breastplates, of making it into a dress, jingle dress cones, these feather symmetrical heavenly shapes. And yeah, it is one of my favorite ones. And so this next slide is a sneak peek of what I'm working on now for my MFA. I haven't posted any of these on social media, so don't take a picture. So this is the process of what I'm doing now for my MFA. So I'm taking ribbon, which is typically worn for ribbon skirts, and I'm taking it to a whole new level. The movement of these, oh my gosh, is like so amazing because like when they move, it's like an ocean, waves. I'm doing menswear. Those are actually jackets. That's a men's shirt. That's a whole men's top. And so I'm trying to incorporate it for women's wear too. So this is very, very exciting stuff. And I can't wait for August to actually present it during the Indian Market Fashion Show. And then, yeah, right? So every year I try to push myself with the first year being feathers, last year being bees, and this year's ribbon. And so I don't even know what next year is going to look like. But I want to show you what I presented for all you guys today. Come on out, Victoria. Victoria is my best friend. She's been with me since the beginning, and she's wearing a feather dress. Work it, girl. Oh my God. So we actually assembled this dress on site because I didn't want to ship it here because I did not know how the feathers would react during packaging, but we assembled it here on site. And yeah, I hope you all enjoy and follow me on Instagram.
Amazing. Okay, next up we have Bethany Yellowtail, which I'm sure many of you know the name. Bethany is a citizen of the Northern Cheyenne Nation and hails from the mighty Few district of the Apsáalooke Nation. She is the founder, designer, and CEO of her own label, Be Yellowtail, which she founded in 2015. With her colorful pieces, Bethany is driven by the desire to see herself and her communities authentically represented in mainstream fashion. So give it up for Bethany.
Hello. Tiba Ishiv, Ishit Himyatnawa Nashave. My Cheyenne name is Sunroad Woman, and my Crow name is Overcomes Through Faith. I am a designer from Wyola, Montana. Our community is called Ikushtakat Chaja. It means the mighty few, and we're the southern flank of the Crow Indian Reservation.
I'm the founder of TheYellowtail.com, a fashion and lifestyle brand dedicated to sharing authentic Indigenous design with the world. At the top of the year, I celebrated 10 years in business, and I still can't believe that where fashion has taken me. I left home when I was right out of high school, spent 16 years in Los Angeles, and the way that we've seen fashion transform, Indigenous fashion come to where it is today is like, I can't believe I live in this lifetime. It's such a blessing to see the ways that fashion and art and creativity from an Indigenous lens has changed our culture. It's a beautiful time to be alive. And so I was really reflecting on my own personal journey. And when it always comes down to it, it comes back to this. These are images of my family, my community, and the people I love the most. I was raised as an Apsáalooke rancher's daughter. This is my family here. My brother just got married to a Cheyenne River Sioux gal. And this is from his wedding out on our family's ranch. My dad is a third-generation cattle rancher, and my mom is a nurse at Sheridan Hospital, Veterans Hospital. And I owe much of my work ethic to my family, and especially my dad. I was raised as his first ranch hand, so I learned how to drive a truck when I was like 8. And he taught us how to parallel park between hay bales. And it was my dad who inspired me or encouraged me to become a fashion designer. My mom was really afraid, that I wanted to go to fashion school when I was a teenager. And she's like, "What are you talking about?" And my dad was like, "We'll find a way." And my dad was also my very first and only investor. He put up collateral from our family's ranch on equipment so that I could take out a small business loan. And so my dad has been my champion my entire journey. And he's also the voice of reason. And when I'm afraid or going through things, my dad is just incredible. So I, in all of my fashion journey or articles, I talk about the process or my inspiration. And I was really looking back and I was like, it's actually the core, my family, my roots. And I feel so thankful to be raised by the best of the best Crow people. My last name carries a great legacy and history that I do not take for granted. It comes from a lot of Yellowtails, and there's a lot of people that have done things for our people. This picture here is Hawk with the yellow tail feathers, which is where our last name comes from. And he had 3 sons, Carson Yellowtail, who started our family ranching legacy, and my grandfather took on the ranch, and now my father, and now my younger brother, Steven, who's in the middle. And he's also in a boot barn campaign right now. So he's in a lot of cowboy stuff right now. So look out for him. And the other brother, Robert Yellowtail, who's a prolific political leader at the turn of the century who advocated for Indigenous people, mostly Crow people, but he was instrumental in helping us receive our voting rights. So that's also, I really am thankful for the family history I was taught. It really encouraged me to do some of the advocacy that I do. And lastly was Thomas Yellowtail, who was a medicine man and Sundance chief up at the top, who helped bring the Sundance religion back to the Crow people after our religious practices were taken away in the 1800s. And his old homestead is in Wyola, is where I was raised my whole life. And to me, it's a sacred place. So many prayers were made there. People from all over the world, other tribes come to pray there. And it's my favorite place in the whole world. That's really grounded me, brought me so much inspiration, joy, and mostly grounding. In this next article here, I put this here to kind of help shape my perspective. Because as you've seen in this conversation so far, each individual designer has a very specific lens. And that's the power of Native fashion and design. That's what makes us different than, dare we say, Pendleton or brands that, take our designs from us. Because these designs, they mean something. They come from the families, the communities. They're tied to something so much greater. Legacy, people that have fought and died for our communities who created pathways for us to move forward. That's why it's different. That's why it's power. There's power in the design. And so I share this article. That was when I was like in my baby fat days, and I loved Beyonce. I still love Beyonce, by the way. My baby fat days when I was on the res, like, you know, romping around in like lugs, and like I just wanted to be a part of pop culture. And I got my first job as a janitor at our local elementary school through our tribal program. I was like 14 years old. And the superintendent asked if I could help create some murals. And so I made these murals for our elementary school when I was a teenager. And in the article I was reading it, it's just like, she talks so much about the community and she doesn't have plans for an art career. But I was like, oh my gosh, it like started right there. And I created these with my best friend, Noose White Clay, to help beautify our school because it had just been vandalized, and we wanted like a place where our people could come in and feel like proud of who they are. And so we put the Crow tribal flag up. We created this big mural, and then I have a signature. You can't see it, but it says "Made by Kids for Kids." It was really cute. And so my mom and dad brought that up recently. And then next we have, this is a tombstone of Limberbones. On my Cheyenne side, I come from the Limberhand family and was raised by the Little Coyote family. But one of my ancestors, Limberbones, which is where our last name comes from, he died at the Battle of Little Bighorn fighting the 7th Cavalry, you know, Custer, and defending the Cheyenne way of life. So as I look at like my family history, my origin story, where I come, the people that raised me and shaped my worldview, it has so much to do with what I do in fashion. We all have a role. We all have a lens that we're brought through our family line and our tribal communities that brings power to design. And so in 2015, I launched oh wait, hold on just a sec. Let me go back to here. I have some cool things to say. So anyways, in 2007, I moved to Los Angeles, like straight res kid to Los Angeles, and it was really rough. Went to design school, had a mean cultural shock, awakening. It was really hard, but my parents made me stick it out because they're like, that's what you wanted to do, and you can't come home, and we can't but bring you home, so I had to stick it out. After I graduated from design school, I worked in corporate fashion for about 7 more years. And I worked for about every big brand in LA you can think of. And also I worked for Baby Fat, which was so cool. Like, it came in at the tail end, but that was my dream when I was a teenager. I was like, I wanted to like dress like Beyonce. I wanted to work for Baby Fat because it was cool. And yeah, it was really there in the fashion industry where I realized we're completely invisible. I worked for a brand, dare I say their name? Yeah, BCBG Max Azria. It was my very first job out of design school. I was hired as an assistant pattern maker. So my career in fashion as a pattern maker. So fit is really important to me. I worked as a pattern maker, basically at the intersection of the design team, pattern maker, production. So I got to see how the whole process works. And the design team passes a sketch, and I like create it by draping, using the Gerber system, which is like basically fashion engineering. It prints out, you go to the sewing team, they make the garment, you fit it. You see the creative director, she's like, no, fit it again, make adjustments. And so that's what I did in my career in fashion. And I really wanted to work in the design teams. I'm so thankful I worked in pattern making because I got to see how this whole thing works and how to take a design concept all the way to production to someone's closet. But going back to my first job at that place, first of all, it was like Mean Girls meets like Hunger Games. It was a really like hard place to work, but I had really great mentors who taught me the fit process, taught me like a lot. But one of the conversations I remember having one day that really struck me is I went to my, who I was working under, the lead pattern maker. And she said, Bethany, come over here. And she was a really amazing woman, super talented. I worked in the runway division, and then they had like an upper level Everlege, which was hot then, and there's rap songs about it, but now it's not. And she said, Bethany, come here. I want to show you something. And she showed me her screen, and she's like, why don't you design like this? You're Native American. And I looked at it, and it was like this like fashion installation of these like really busty models, and they were wearing headdresses and like fringy, feathery, gaudy beads. And I was like shook. And she's like, why don't you design like Native American? You're Native American. This is you. And she said, this is you. And I was like, what? And I remember being like, I was 20 years old. These conversations about appropriation and cultural appreciation were not happening then at all. This was, oh my gosh, 15 years ago. 13 years ago. And those conversations weren't having, so I didn't know how to speak up for myself. And all I thought to myself was like, that isn't me. And I felt so invisible. Like I remember the feeling in my stomach. It just didn't feel good. And it was really there that I was like, I want to see myself. Like, this is not who we are. This is not my community. This is definitely not what we look like. And yeah. And I just wanted to see myself. And so in 2015, I launched Be Yellowtail, and my very first collection was, thank you. My very first collection was inspired by my great grandmother's beadwork, and I believe it's at Epcot right now. This actual dress that the Smithsonian purchased for me. So thank you, the Smithsonian, for supporting. Before it was, online. They have this actual dress, and also this dress in the green is also here at the Smithsonian. So thank you so much for supporting my career and my family. And I launched with the pieces that were from my family. My great grandmother had this beautiful old elk tooth dress that's dark green trade cloth, and it's all real elk teeth. And we have it in our family. It was passed to my sister and I, and her beaded bag and moccasins, which are the same color palette. And you can tell the beads are super old and, kind of cracking, but it's like our family heirlooms and legacy that have been passed on to my sister. And this third skirt was actually a floral that was gifted to me from Jamie Okuma, my very first collection. And at the end, the same dress. And this collection is really special to me because it was the first time I saw the desire for Native fashion in our community. And I launched, and it sold out so quickly. I was able to fully leave my I was still kind of like hustling and working odd jobs. I worked for contract for the Kardashian collection when they were in Sears. And so I kind of was like building my brand while I was building the Yellowtail. And this collection really afforded me the ability to like leave full time, and I haven't looked back yet. Sometimes when I get scared, I'm like, well, I could be a pattern maker again. But, I was fully have been doing fashion the last 10 years with doing what I love. And so here we go. This is LA, 16 years. About 2 years ago, I moved home to Montana, and it's kind of like the reverse of when I left, where like I kind of having culture shock, but like, you can't get like really good coffee there or sushi. And so I'm kind of feel like I'm finally there, and I finally got a truck. So I'm like live in Montana now. Like I drive a truck. And this is my most recent like campaigns I've been doing, and I'm going back to my roots, going back to my Montana roots. I'm a country girl. Like I feed cows with my dad and my brothers. So I'm leaning into it, but still like taking my experience in fashion, knowing that our customer is worldwide. It's not just Native people, but first and foremost, like that's why I started. That's why I'm successful, is because of our community, because of, mostly the women that have worn Be Yellowtail and have been rocking it since day one. And to me, that's the most special part of this, is to see women out there in the world in their power, advocating for communities, feeling good about what they wear, feeling represented, and also our allies, people who believe in what we do, who want to see Native fashion design, who want to invest in Native people. Like, it's literally a walking billboard out in the world. That's what I understand about fashion. And our ancestors did everything with intention, from our fabrics to our buttons to our beads. Our ancestral regalia holds power, and they knew that. And so I take that same teaching and intention with what I do, so that even though there's more people wearing it, you know, we have ribbons, we have textures, we print and sublimate our fabric now, but our people still and always use fabric and textile in our ceremonial ways and our cultural teachings. We're still making regalia. Like, fabric has so much power in it still. And so I really take that understanding with me when I create for people, and knowing that people from all walks of life will be wearing these designs out into the world, and it'll touch them in a good way. And that's what for each of you, I see a lot of you wearing some of our dresses. That's my my wish and hope, is that when you wear Yellowtail, you feel good, you feel powerful, you feel represented, and you also walk into the world knowing you're covered and protected in those same type of prayers. And so with that, I would like to introduce Malia. Oh wait, sorry, I have one more slide. Just kidding. So this billboard I wanted to share is because, for me, fashion is so much bigger than making beautiful garments. It's also not about me. It's not about Bethany Yellowtail or Yellowtail. It's about our people. And I've seen how powerful fashion can be to be a catalyst for the message. It's a tool that our people have always used for adornment, for protection, to carry out the message of our people, to represent who we are. It anchors us in who we come from, the stories of our families, our family histories, and the people who have set precedents for us, the shoulders of our ancestors, if you will. And also, as you know, change in government sectors, education, and public sectors happens at an achingly slow rate. But fashion and art can change culture instantly. It just takes that one moment, that one cultural moment, to shift minds and hearts. And I believe that fashion can do the same. I've seen how powerful it can be in my own work. And as you've seen with what Lily Gladstone, just wearing that dress on the red carpet, not because it's Gucci, not because it's a beautiful dress, it's because of what it represented, what it means, how powerful that moment can be. It's art out in the world, and it shifts minds. Hopefully, if you guys haven't watched, if you weren't there for the presentation yesterday, watch it on YouTube. It's so amazing. I was like, it was so intelligent. It was so funny. It was so smart and meaningful. So really, I encourage you to watch that. But yeah, so I wanted to share this because it reminds me again of the fashion, our cultural components, and that our ancestors are brilliant. And they understood our connection to the land, to each other. And when they prayed, they didn't just pray for ourselves. They prayed for all of our people. They prayed for our connection to all of creation, the land, the beings above and below. And also that means me and you too. So when you think about the things you wear, the fashion, the things that you're purchasing from Native people, like, we're connecting to one another in a good way. And we ask for, that's what we're taking out into the world. And so with that, I would like to introduce Malia Noses Gun. And she is Malia. She's wearing a ribbon suit from my most recent collection. And the inspiration comes from our regalia, but it's a suit that you can take out into the world. And it's designed to empower the woman who's wearing it. And that she walks out into the world in a good way with the healing, with the power of our people. Thank you, Malia.
Amazing. Well, we arrived to our last, but certainly not least, designer of the night or day. It's the afternoon. What am I talking about? Joe Big Mountain is a Mohawk, Cree, and Comanche master quillwork artist. You may also know him as the artist who did the Lily Gladstone Oscars dress with Gucci this past year. I think that deserves an applause. Together with his partner Sunshine Big Mountain, who I know is somewhere here, but I can't see, they run Ironhorse Quillwork, their label, on the Oneida Reservation. Together, they offer intricate jewelry, bags, and more. Joe grew up participating in powwows and educational performances, and today he fuses traditional and contemporary techniques to enhance his craft to make each piece unique and his own. So let's give it up for Joe.
Tansei. My name is Joe Big Mountain. I come from the Mohawk, Cree, and Comanche nations. My mother is Cree from Fort Capel, Saskatchewan, and my father is Comanche and Mohawk. I grew up in a large family of 8. I have 4 sisters and 3 brothers, 3 of my sisters being older than me, and I grew up watching them make powwow outfits, and they taught me many different art forms growing up. One of them being porcupine quillwork, taught to me by my oldest sister, Tara Ironstar. And I started quilling probably around 10 years old. And porcupine quillwork is one of North America's oldest art forms. It predates fabric and beads. And it has many different beliefs. Many different tribal nations practice quillwork. And one of the beliefs that I have, that was taught to me, is that porcupine quillwork, porcupines are a defensive animal. And so we believe that when we make this art form and we wear it, it gives us that same protection. I would now like to introduce Malia Jacobs. She's adorned with cool accessories, from the top being a headband. It's a mixture of zigzag stitch and wrapped quillwork. She has on extra large 4-band earrings with a quilled choker attached to a body chain with a broken heart quilled center. Last and not least, she has quilled cuffs, rings, and is carrying a porcupine quilled purse. Thank you.
Well, as you can see, I mean, that was such an amazing group of designers, each having their own style, their own stories. And I think sort of my favorite thing of seeing a group like this is you realize we're not a monolith and that Indigenous design does not look one way. I think it's a narrative that's been in fashion for a long time, is that Native American design is just one thing. And as we can clearly see, it's many different things, many different histories, many different styles. We all have our own stories. And I think that's the most exciting thing about Indigenous fashion today, is you can't really predict where it's going. And that's the most exciting thing.